Kanye West on Alex Jones' program on Infowars showed up after, I guess we should go back even further. He showed up initially with Nick Fuentes, a very troubling character, white nationalist, certainly by implication, if not by his own admission, showed up on Tim Pool's podcast. And Tim Pool pushed back on some of the absurd things that West said about Jews, and West stormed out after something like 15 minutes. So after that incident happened, he then shows up on Infowars. Now, the important thing here is that Alex Jones has been thrown off of Twitter and has not been brought back. So Infowars lives on presumably its own site. They had an interview with Kanye West in person. Nick Fuentes, who's traveling with Kanye West, is there as well. And Alex Jones, in this context, is the voice of reason. Now,
I barely followed this. I was. Let me just say that one of the things that this situation reminds me of is that we are living in an era that celebrates the mentally ill, that puts them front and center and either admires them and tells them how amazing they are and their delusions, or leaves them open for the mockery that will surely come. And it's disrespectful, it's mean, it's dangerous, it's bad for the individuals for sure, but it's dangerous for society. And I know that's not the main place that you're going here, but my overwhelming sense, and I'm experiencing sadness as an emotion this week for other reasons, so maybe I'm just more prone to be feeling sad about this, but my overwhelming sense of this and of some of the children who are claiming they are trans and being, just manipulated and destroyed. My overwhelming sense at the moment is not anger or surprise or any of the number of things that a person could feel. It's just sadness. Like, I really know almost nothing about Kanye West, but isn't there anyone out there who loves him enough to protect him from himself? Honestly.
So, look, this is one of the places that we need to go here. Now, I don't know if what we're seeing is the result of mental illness. That's certainly a plausible way to connect these dots. I have to say, the greater tragedy is what is being done to us by the elimination of our ability to have a rational conversation about any of this, where should you manage to create a rational conversation, it is immediately dismissed as right-wing or something like that, right? So the problem is we have to have the conversation about how to treat each other well, how to be nations, how to exist as whatever the West is. Not exactly a nation, right? Mm-hmm. But it is clearly, in some sense, an emergent culture that has to defend itself. We've got to be able to have a conversation about how you do that. And instead, people have gamed every system of conversation so that none of those things can take place. So that if you succeed, then you are dismissed. If you fail, then it is considered evidence that it wasn't possible to begin with, right? The whole thing, the conversation environment has been thoroughly rigged. And so let me just finish describing what took place. Kanye West shows up, I think without explanation, on Alex Jones' program, wearing, it's not even a face mask. It is something that covers his entire face, including his eyes. Presumably he can see through the material, but it's a very bizarre thing for him to do, especially in light of the fact that it, I think, clearly was him. Any voice analysis should be able to tell you if it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, he shows up, somehow disguising himself, a hand on a Bible sitting on the table in front of him. And of course, he says all kinds of preposterous things, which Jones attempts to back him into some form of reasonability, and he's having none of it. So he definitely says that he thinks all human beings bring redeeming things to the table, including Hitler. Okay, well, no doubt one could come up with some pedantic defense of that statement. Jones pushes back, and he's like, "No, I actually like Hitler." So
doesn't he say especially Hitler?
He does say especially Hitler.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so he makes it very plain that his perspective, at least in his current state of mind, is that he has affection for Hitler and the Nazis, and it's and in his I believe in his interview with Tim Pool, he said that the Holocaust didn't happen that way or something. So it's like all the worst stuff, right? It's Holocaust denial, it's affection for Hitler, and the question is, what are we to make of this? And I have not done a tremendous amount of digging on people's arguments here, but there is one in what I looked at, and I looked at enough stuff that I don't see anywhere, which I think ought to be front and center. My feeling is, on thinking about this tragic, bizarre spectacle, the kind of train wreck you can't look away from, that the real answer is that actually, if you stand in the right place, it makes maybe the strongest possible case for free speech on our platforms in the sense that the founders meant it. That even this bizarre spectacle, which, I'm not a believer in the category of hate speech. Obviously, much speech is motivated by hate, but it's obviously not a legal category. It is protected by the First Amendment like everything else. Even this obvious case of hate speech, the embrace of a genocidal maniac, that not only does the principle of free speech require us to defend this, but it actually demonstrates why we must. And so I wanted to make that case, just so that it's on the table at the very least. And the way I see it is this. Kanye West is exceedingly popular. Or at least he was last week.
I think it's been a little while.
He is exceedingly popular. I don't think that could possibly be an exaggeration, even if he's lost half his audience. He's exceedingly popular. In fact, the thing you point to, the pathology that has no name, where somebody becomes so famous and so wealthy that no one can tell them no, right? The thing that I believe killed Prince, that killed Michael Jackson, right? The idea that these people are so elevated that they will be injected with, drugs that will kill them because basically they can have whatever they want.
I will just say I was making a broader point than that. This wasn't about, is he too famous for anyone who loves him to help him? This was, I think, a more important and far broader point, that as a society, we are embracing mental illness. And most of the people who are having their mental illness embraced have no fame at all. And in fact, many of them have narcissistic tendencies and are seeking fame.
Yep.
And the response is not, I'm sorry you're going through that. Let's see if we can treat that and return you to some semblance of normalcy in the best sense of the term. But rather, oh, yes, you are in fact a lizard. And we're going to make sure that anyone who says that you're not is roundly disciplined.
No, look, I think you're making an excellent point. I do think that there is something that is almost inscribed in the new rules, in which we are forced to not dismiss certain kinds of assertions as crazy, even though they transparently are. And that's clearly going on here. But anyway, let's just play my game here for a second. He is exceedingly popular. I don't know how many million followers he has, but it's a very large number. He has also got political aspirations. He's run for president once, you roll your eyes, but when somebody with as much reach as this person has decides that they want to do something like this, the idea that it is preposterous is obviously wrong, okay? And Donald Trump proves this, right? Donald Trump managed to get himself elected president. So my point is, Kanye West is the kind of person who brings together certain things that could conceivably put him in the presidency, right? A nuclear-armed presidency. And so the idea that we might take utterances of his that are beyond the pale and shield them, thereby protecting us from the understanding, even if, and I do think one interpretation here is that this person is having a bipolar, a manic episode, that they don't really believe these things, that we're hearing things from their, darkest fantasies and not their actual understanding of the world, and that therefore it would be ungenerous for us to imagine that this is what Kanye West thinks. I don't know. I don't follow him under normal circumstances, so I don't know how out of character this is, if he's just finally admitting things that he believes, or if these are things he doesn't really believe, and 2 months from now he'll say, look, that wasn't really me. I don't know. But what I do know is that anybody who would say these things is not fit for office. And so my point is, no matter what the meaning of this episode, it is vitally important that we be able to see it. Vitally important. And to make that point even a little bit stronger, notice where we did see it, right? We saw it on Alex Jones' program, who has himself been banished to the fringe of civilization, right? So the point is, okay, we can now take video from this channel, which the, elite world would clearly like to disappear, right? But this channel is responsible for us being able to see something important that actually might be at some point relevant to the governance of the country and the fate of the world. So, it seems to me like it couldn't really be a stronger case for, let us, not be snowflakes, and let us not pretend that the fact that somebody has said something terrible means that we are all going to be persuaded of something, or we are going to be so injured. I mean, look, I'm Jewish. I have as much right to be injured by somebody denying the Holocaust or saying Hitler was a cool guy as anybody. But you know what? It doesn't bug me. I think I'm looking at somebody who's either involved in performance art, or it's a mental illness, or it's both, or I don't know what. But the point is, I think it's pretty important that we all heard him say it.